Have you ever been in a room where one person commands the attention of everyone, not because they are the loudest, not because they are the most animated, but because there is a profound and unshakable stillness about them? They speak less, but their words land with the weight of mountains. They move with an economy of motion that feels deliberate and powerful. In their presence, you feel a strange impulse to quiet the frantic monologue in your own mind. This is not the empty silence of absence, but the dense, resonant stillness of presence. What if I told you that this power is not a personality trait you are born with, but a sacred energy you can cultivate? What if the respect you have been chasing, the influence you have been fighting for, the peace you have been desperately seeking, is not found in adding more words, more actions, more effort, but in subtracting, in becoming still? We live in a world that worships noise. We are conditioned to believe that our value is measured by our visibility, our productivity, our ability to fill every available space with our opinions, our plans, our anxieties. We overtalk in meetings, desperate to prove our worth. We fill every pause in conversation, terrified of the perceived awkwardness of silence. We move through our days with a frantic, hurried energy, believing that business is a synonym for importance. But this constant state of agitated doing is a profound spiritual sickness. It disconnects us from our center, from the deep well of quiet wisdom that resides within, and it broadcasts an energy of neediness. It tells the world, I'm not secure in my own being. I need your attention, your validation, your reaction to feel real. This energy, far from commanding respect, repels it. People may listen to your noise, but they will not truly hear you. They will not feel you. Because you are not yet feeling yourself. Today, we embark on a journey inward. A journey to discover the subtle, magnetic, and transformative power of stillness. This is the path of the still mind strong spirit, the practice of inner peace power that allows you to command respect, not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Let me introduce you to a man named Kale. Perhaps you will recognize parts of your own story in his. Kale was a good man, intelligent, creative, and deeply caring, but he lived in a state of perpetual energetic anxiety. In conversations, he was the filler. He would rush to fill any silence, fearing it meant the connection was failing. He over-explained his ideas, piling words upon words as if quantity could create conviction. In meetings at his architecture firm, he would jump in with his thoughts, often speaking over others, not from a place of arrogance, but from a desperate fear of being invisible, of his contributions being overlooked. He believed that the person who spoke the most, who had the most to say, would be seen as the most valuable. Yet the opposite was happening. His colleagues would grow impatient. His boss would often cut him off, saying, "Get to the point, Kale." In his romantic relationships, his partners would complain of feeling exhausted by him, of never having space to just breathe in his presence. He was giving so much energy, so much verbal effort, but it was having the inverse effect of what he intended. His frantic energy was creating a subtle field of resistance around him. People were bracing themselves for his energetic output, rather than opening themselves to his message. Kale felt chronically misunderstood and deeply disrespected. He would leave meetings and social gatherings feeling a familiar, hollow ache of inadequacy, wondering why his passion and his ideas were consistently being devalued. What he didn't understand was that the world was not devaluing his ideas. It was reacting to the chaotic, insecure energy with which he presented them. He was a radio station broadcasting at a frequency of static, and then wondering why no one could hear the beautiful music underneath. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever walked away from an interaction feeling like you gave it your all? You said all the right things, but you were fundamentally not received. This is the painful paradox of ungrounded energy. It is the core of so many of our struggles in conscious relationships and in our professional lives. We are trying to build skyscrapers on foundations of sand. The self-worth healing journey begins when we stop trying to shout over the static and instead turn our attention inward to find the source of the noise. For Kale, the turning point was not a grand epiphany but a quiet observation. A new senior partner, a woman named Anya, joined the firm. She was a legend in the field, but her presence was the opposite of what he expected. In the boardroom, a space Kale experienced as a verbal battlefield, Anya was an ocean of calm. She rarely spoke. For the first few meetings, she said almost nothing at all. She simply listened. But her listening was not passive. It was an active, palpable force in the room. Her gaze was steady, her posture relaxed yet alert. She didn't fidget or interrupt. She created a space that seemed to draw the truth out of people. And when she finally did speak, the entire room would fall silent, leaning in to catch every word. She would offer a single, concise observation or ask one piercingly insightful question, and it would completely reframe the entire conversation. It would often be the very point Kale had been trying to make for 20 minutes, but coming from her stillness, it landed with the force of a revelation. Kale watched this, utterly mesmerized. She was not loud, she was not aggressive. She did not fight for airtime. She simply was, and in her being she commanded a level of respect he had been desperately striving for his entire career. He realized that power was not noise. Power was a deeply rooted internal quiet. It was a fundamental shift in his understanding of the energy of love and the energy of influence. He had been trying to push his energy out into the world. Anya was allowing the world to be drawn into the gravity of her energy. It was the difference between a firecracker and a star. One makes a lot of noise for a brief moment and is gone. The other sits in the vast silence of space, and worlds orbit around it. This is the first sacred lesson of stillness. Stillness is not emptiness. It is a dense field of coherent energy. In the world of spiritual psychology, love, we understand that everything is energy. Your thoughts, your emotions, your intentions, they create a vibrational field around you that people feel long before they process your words. Kale's energy was scattered, chaotic, and outwardly focused. It was like a frantic searchlight, constantly seeking, probing, and pushing. It made people feel scanned, analyzed, and subtly pressured. Anya's energy was grounded, coherent, and inwardly anchored. It was like a lighthouse. It didn't chase ships. It simply stood, rooted in its own foundation, and its light was a beacon that ships could orient themselves by. Her stillness was a state of profound self-possession. It communicated on a deep, non-verbal level. I am so secure in my own center that I have no need to pull anything from you. I don't need your validation, your agreement, or your attention. I am already whole. This is the energy that makes others feel safe. It is the energy that creates trust. It is the energy that commands genuine, unforced respect. So how do we begin to cultivate this? The journey from a scattered mind to a still spirit is a practice. It is the core of the spiritual growth journey. It begins with the simple, radical act of paying attention to your own inner state. For Kale, this started with 5 minutes a day. He would set a timer, close the door to his office, and simply sit. He wouldn't try to meditate in a formal sense. He would just try to be still, to stop moving, to stop talking, and to just notice the chaos inside him. The first few times were excruciating. His mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. His body twitched with the impulse to do something. He was confronted with the raw, unfiltered reality of his own inner agitation. He had been running from this feeling his entire life by filling every moment with noise and action. Now, sitting in silence, he was forced to meet it. This is the practice of healing through awareness. You cannot heal what you are not willing to feel. You cannot quiet the storm if you pretend it isn't there. You must first be willing to sit in the rain. Here is the practical application for you. Find 5 minutes today, just 5. Sit in a chair with your feet on the floor, close your eyes if that's comfortable, and do nothing. Your only task is to feel your body, feel the weight of it in the chair. Feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. Feel the air on your skin. Your mind will wander. That is what minds do. When it does, gently, without judgment, bring your attention back to the physical sensation of your feet on the floor. That's it. You are not trying to achieve a state of perfect calm. You are simply practicing the art of returning to the present moment, returning to your body. Each time you bring your awareness back to your feet, you are strengthening a spiritual muscle. You are building a new neural pathway. You are teaching your nervous system, moment by moment, that it is safe to be still. This small, consistent practice is the seed from which the oak tree of your inner peace power will grow. As Kale continued this simple practice, he began to notice something profound. The stillness he was cultivating in private began to leak into his public life. The first place it showed up was in his speech. He became aware of his own compulsive need to fill silence. He was in a conversation with a client, and the client paused to think. The old Kale would have jumped in immediately, rephrasing his point, offering another example, frantically trying to manage the client's thought process. But this time, something in him held back. He remembered Anya's stillness. He felt the impulse to speak, the familiar anxiety rising in his chest, but instead of acting on it, he just watched it. And he waited. He gave the client the gift of silence. The pause, which to the old Kale would have felt like an eternity of awkward failure, lasted maybe 7 seconds. But in that 7-second space, something magical happened. The client's face softened. A look of clarity dawned in his eyes. He then articulated a solution to his own problem that was more brilliant than anything Kale could have suggested. Kale had done nothing but hold a space of quiet trust, and in that space, the client's own wisdom had emerged. After the meeting, the client clapped him on the shoulder and said, "Thanks, Kale. You're a great listener. You really helped me think that through." This was a revelation. He had achieved more through silence than he ever had through his endless torrent of words. This is the second sacred lesson. The pause is a form of power. In a world that is rushing, the person who is comfortable with a pause, who can hold the space of silence without anxiety, is the one who controls the frame of the interaction. A pause before you answer a question communicates that you are thoughtful, that you are considering your words, that you are not just reacting impulsively. It makes what you say next land with more weight and significance. A pause while someone else is speaking, allowing them to complete their thought and even sit with it for a moment, communicates profound respect. It says, "I am not just waiting for my turn to talk. I am truly receiving what you are offering." This practice is central to mastering mindful intimacy. In our closest relationships, we often use words not to connect but to control. We explain, we defend, we justify. We talk over our partner's pain, trying to fix it or explain it away. What if the next time your partner is expressing a difficult emotion, you said nothing? What if you just sat with them, offering the silent, powerful presence of your full attention? This kind of quiet restraint can feel like a protective vessel, giving their feelings a safe space to unfold without interruption. This silent presence is a profound act of love and respect. It is the sacred connection that our souls crave, far more than easy answers or quick fixes. The practical application is this. For the next 24 hours, make a conscious effort to use the power of the pause. When someone asks you a question, take a full, silent breath before you answer. When you are speaking, intentionally place a 2-second pause between your sentences. And if you find yourself in a conversation where the other person pauses, resist the urge to fill the gap. Just let the silence be. Watch what happens. Watch how the dynamic of the conversation shifts. Watch how people begin to listen to you differently. You are not just changing a speech pattern. You are fundamentally altering the energetic signature of your presence. As Kale integrated these practices, his entire energetic field began to transform. He was moving from a state of anxious doing to one of grounded being. This is a profound shift in the balance of the divine masculine-feminine energies within us. The wounded masculine energy, which Kale had been operating from, feels it must constantly push, strive, prove, and perform to be worthy. It is an energy of insecurity, always seeking external validation. The divine masculine in its healthy form is the energy of conscious action, of structure, of protection, of moving forward with clarity and purpose. The divine feminine is the energy of being, of intuition, of receptivity, of creativity, and of profound, unconditional presence. Kale's journey was about healing his wounded masculine by anchoring it in the divine feminine. His practice of stillness was the cultivation of his feminine energy. He was learning to simply be, to trust in the power of his own presence without the need for constant action. And from this grounded, receptive state of being, his doing, his divine masculine became infinitely more effective. When he did speak, his words were born from a place of inner quiet, not anxious impulse. They were focused, potent, and true. He no longer needed to use 100 words to make a point when 5, chosen from a place of stillness, would suffice. This inner integration created an outer radiance. People at work started to change how they interacted with him. They began to seek out his opinion. They started to quiet down when he spoke. He hadn't changed his intelligence or his creativity. He had changed the energetic ground from which they emerged. He had stopped leaking power and started cultivating it. This is the essence of transform your energy. It's an inside job. You stop trying to manage everyone else's perception of you, and you focus on mastering the reality of your own inner state. This brings us to the ultimate test of stillness, how to maintain it under pressure. It is one thing to be still in a quiet room. It is quite another to hold your center when you are being challenged, criticized, or attacked. The third sacred lesson is this: stillness is the ultimate source of non-reactive power. Our natural, instinctual response to a perceived attack is to fight, flee, or freeze. In conversation, this looks like becoming defensive and argumentative, fight, withdrawing and shutting down, flee, or getting flustered and losing your train of thought, freeze. All of these are reactions. They cede control of your inner state to the external trigger. The person who can remain still, centered, and present in the face of conflict is the person who holds all the power. Their stillness is not weakness. It is a profound display of strength. It communicates, "Your chaos is not my chaos. Your agitation cannot disturb my peace." This calm, non-reactive presence has a startling effect on others. It disarms aggression. It diffuses tension. An attacker expects a certain response. When you don't provide it, when you meet their frantic energy with a wall of calm, their own energy has nowhere to go but back to them. They are forced to confront the reality of their own outburst. Kale experienced this firsthand. A senior manager from another department publicly blamed him for a mistake that was not his fault in a large meeting. The old Kale would have immediately jumped to his own defense. His voice would have gotten high and tight. He would have listed all the reasons why he wasn't to blame, and he would have appeared flustered, defensive, and, ironically, guilty. But this time was different. As the manager spoke, Kale felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, the heat of injustice rising in his chest. But instead of reacting, he brought his awareness to his feet on the floor. He focused on his breath. He did not break eye contact with the manager, but his gaze was not aggressive. It was calm, steady, and neutral. He remained physically still. When the manager finished his tirade, there was a tense silence in the room. All eyes were on Kale. He let the silence hang for a moment longer. Then, in a calm, even tone, he said simply, "Thank you for sharing your perspective. I'd like to look into the data and then we can find a solution together." He didn't argue. He didn't defend. He didn't blame. He simply held his ground with unshakable, quiet dignity. The effect was astonishing. The manager, stripped of the fight he was expecting, seemed to deflate. The other people in the room looked at Kale with a new kind of respect. He had demonstrated a level of emotional mastery that was far more powerful than any loud defense could ever have been. He had won the exchange without ever entering the fight. This is the pinnacle of inner peace power. It is the wisdom to know that you do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. It is the self-worth healing that comes from realizing your value is not determined by other people's opinions or accusations. Your worth is an inherent, unshakable fact. Your stillness is the ultimate expression of this inner knowing. The practical application here is a form of emotional alchemy. The next time you feel triggered before you react, practice the 3-breath pause. Take one deep breath and name the emotion to yourself. This is anger. Take a second deep breath and feel where it lives in your body. I feel a tightness in my chest. Take a third deep breath and consciously relax that part of your body. This entire process can take less than 10 seconds, but it is a revolutionary act of self-mastery. It creates a sacred pause between the stimulus and your response. In that pause, you reclaim your power. You are no longer a slave to the trigger. You are the conscious creator of your response. Kale's journey did not happen overnight. It was a slow, steady process of cultivating a new way of being. His stillness became his sanctuary and his superpower. His relationships healed. He no longer exhausted his partner with his nervous energy. Instead, he offered her a calm harbor. His career flourished. He was eventually promoted to a leadership position, not because he became louder, but because he became a source of quiet strength and clarity that his entire team could rely on. He learned that true authority is not projected, it is generated. It is the natural byproduct of a mind that is at peace with itself. This is the promise of stillness. It is the subtle power that is available to each and every one of us. It is the quiet at the center of the storm, the deep, resonant hum of the universe that you can only hear when you quiet the chatter in your own mind. The respect you seek from the world is a mirror of the respect you give to your own inner being. The path to commanding respect is to first command yourself, to master your impulses, to befriend your silence, to anchor yourself so deeply in the truth of your own presence that you become an unshakable force of calm in a chaotic world. This is the journey of the awakened heart. It is a path of less effort, not more. It is a path of softening, not hardening. It is a path of listening, not shouting. It is the path of coming home to the profound power that has been inside you all along, waiting patiently in the stillness. I invite you to explore this stillness, to take just a few moments each day to disconnect from the noise and reconnect with the quiet wisdom of your own soul. Share in the comments what your own relationship with stillness is like. Is it a place of comfort or a place of challenge for you? Your story is a vital part of our collective spiritual growth journey. By sharing our experiences, we remind each other that we are not alone in this sacred work. If this exploration of inner power resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe and become part of our Still Mind Strong Spirit community. Our next conversation will delve into the concept of energetic sovereignty, how to protect your peace and maintain your center while living in a world that is constantly trying to pull you out of it. It is the next step on this powerful path. Until then, may you find the courage to embrace the silence, for it is in the stillness that your true strength is waiting to be heard. Be the lighthouse,